indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember Dalby?
Here.
Councilmember Myers? Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Stevens?
Here.
Councilmember Berg?
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Approve the minutes from meeting number 3 on August 18th, 2020 as presented. Recommendation, approve the minutes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 2433 East Main Street in the city of Ottumwa, Wapolo County, Iowa.
This is a public hearing, and we have Zach Simonson from the Planning Department. So Zach, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This property is located at 2433 East Main. It has actually been placarded for a very long time. It's one of our oldest files. This one was placarded on February 26, 2015. And it's changed ownership, it looks like 4 times since it was first placarded. The change in ownership often causes the files to draw out pretty long because the new owners are allowed some time to make repairs. In this case, it's continued to abandon and further deteriorate. There is a photo, if Edward has it, of the current condition of the property. It was partially demolished and the owner wasn't able to complete the demolition. The condemnation notice was served by certified mail and by posting on the property and in the courier. The staff recommendation would be to condemn the structure.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience who wants to address this particular item, now's the time to step to the microphone. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 2433 East Main Street, order prompt demolition, removal and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative cost, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation, approve the condemnation of the structures located at 2433 East Main Street.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation is presented, Your Honor. Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 422 South Ward in the city of Ottumwa, Wapolo County, Iowa.
Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. This property was placarded on June 20th, 2019 for a lack of utilities, but that placard was briefly released on August 1st of 2019. It was then placarded again on August 15th, 2019 following a fire. Throughout November of 2019, the former occupants attempted to occupy the lot in a camper. They even ran electrical service using an extension cord from a property across the street, over the street into the property. The owner did submit a repair plan for the first time on January 3rd, 2020. However, no progress was made. And after the repair plan expired, the owner did attempt to obtain an electrical permit, which was briefly issued before it was revoked because the condemnation had already been scheduled for this hearing. The property does remain in violation of the code, and as you can see, it's in pretty critical condition. The condemnation notice was served by certified mail and by posting on the property and in the Ottumwa Courier, and the staff recommendation would be to condemn the structure.
Okay. This is a public hearing, and I do have a person, Rita McNeil, if you'd like to step to the microphone.
I'm Rita McNeil.
Pull that microphone down so we can, there, thank you.
Okay, I'm Rita McNeil. And when we received the letter that they wanted to condemn the property, we were told to send in a letter of appeal within 5 days, which we did send it in. And I'm just going to start with that, that we received the letter and that we would like to update the city of Ottumwa regarding this situation. My husband, unfortunately, has had a lot of surgeries in the last year. And so we've been unable to get a lot of stuff done. Not only that, we've had other properties that had a fire. We had a car run into another property, which we had to finish too. And I have a detailed list. I don't know if I'm supposed to give this out or not, but of everything that's happened in our life in the last year and a half, explaining what's going on. And I also have documents of my husband's surgeries. He's had, in November, had a total knee, December had a total knee, and then was recovering from that and wasn't doing very well. By June, started doing a few things. August started having chest pain, shortness of breath. I took him to the cardiologist and he ended up having double bypass surgery at the end of August. So a lot of it was delayed because of that. Also COVID. Obviously I'm a nurse, so I've worked in the COVID clinic some during the first outbreak. I know that we're supposed to stay home. I spent 2 days going through this, looking this information up, and then found some paperwork from the city and didn't realize that I was supposed to go back in June. I see it on the paperwork now, but of course I didn't know it at the time or I would have went down. But we would really like to proceed with this. We would really like to finish this house. We think, it'll be an asset to the community once we get it done. We have done stuff to the house. It just looks worse because he has torn everything out and is going to fix the back where the fire was at and then remodel the entire house.
Thank you. Anything else you want to add?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Is there anyone else going to speak to this issue besides you, or are you the only one?
I'm the only one.
Okay. Then, council, do you have any preference for any questions or any comments, or?
You're not going to get a quick question. Very rarely do we ever have anybody approach us, but I guess this is for Zach. It says here that former tenants attempted to occupy the lot in the camper, running electrical service to the camper using an extension cord across the street. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And how was that resolved? How did you contact the owners?
The tenants were eventually, they moved on. I don't know if there was an eviction or anything like that. Rita might know, but they did eventually move on from the property. And there's currently, as far as we know, hopefully no one residing there.
And have the owners come to you, maybe requested a meeting to sit down and explain some of the circumstances, or did they just constantly wait on letters going out or being notified by you?
I guess, like I said, we did receive the first repair plan on January 3rd. This was after the placard was placed on August 15th, so there was a considerable amount of time between those. We were in touch at various points about the tenants, but we never did receive a repair plan. And then again, after that repair plan expired, we didn't receive anything until we received a request for an electrical permit after the condemnation notice had been served. So I don't think that it was a lot of communication. And I also understand we're sympathetic to the issues that Rita McNeil described. But obviously there are some items in the repair plan that they wouldn't have personally had to do. Even the electrical permit where the licensed electrician could have worked on the property. None of those things were attempted during the intervening period. So we would definitely say that we issued the condemnation notice because there was little to no progress and because we didn't expect the property to go in a direction other than the continued deterioration that we've seen so far. So.
And you stand by the recommendation then, 100%?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, while you're standing there, when did the plan expire?
I can check here real quick. I think they're typically for 6 months. And Jeff Hammond, the inspector, is here as well. He has, do you know the answer to that?
It was a 6-month repair plan.
It would have been, yeah, 6 months.
As
So,
far as the date that for the file, you got it.
yeah. So June, roughly 2020.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to address this?
I can address the electrical permit.
Okay.
We had spoke with J.P. Jones, who is an instructor at Indian Hills. And he was going to use the house as a project for he teaches electrical at the college. And so he was going to use the house as a project for this next September. So that's the reason why the electrical permit was asked for. Because we've got him set up to do that.
Okay, at this point, I think we should close the public hearing and move on. So is there a motion to close the public hearing portion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 422 South Ward, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 422 South Ward.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions for Zach or our inspector?
Your Honor, I got one more quick question.
Sure. Go
Just
ahead,
to
Matt.
be certain. Did you, Rita just mentioned that J.P. Jones had planned on doing this as a project house. Did they ever relay that to you or have a meeting with you when they took out the permit, or was there any kind of conversation about possibly doing that?
Yeah, there's no note on that in the file, and I'll just quickly check with Jeff.
Not that I was aware. At one time, I did speak with Cliff, I think you know, Bree's husband. He had mentioned that he had planned to form an electrical permit, and it was at that time that I told him that we need to hold off because it was moving towards condemnation. But that's the only thing that I knew about it, that I can recall, the final state otherwise.
Okay.
It's our assumption that they were unaware, that the person who was unaware of this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And
Any
so
other
just
questions?
clarifying, or just to kind of reiterate and ensure. So after the plan expired, there was no request for extension on the repair plan or any
No,
scheduling after that?
no. I will say that the letter, obviously, that was submitted after the condemnation does request more time, but we left that question obviously open for this meeting.
Quick question, Zach. Usually, if you were going to offer an extension on an appeal, how long would that be?
I believe we usually move in 6-month increments. That's the duration of the repair plans.
Okay, so, sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
So September timeline, just to even have the electrical done, would fall well outside that 6 months.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach.
This is the time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 1214 West Highland in the city of Ottumwa, Wapolo County, Iowa.
Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Mayor. This property was placarded on March 27th, 2020, after a complaint from the Ottumwa Police Department that the structure did not meet the minimum housing standards in order to occupy it as a dwelling. Multiple attempts were made to make contact with the owner. No one ever sought permission to enter the building or sought a repair plan. We have learned that the owner is deceased and there hasn't been any estate opened to move the property into anyone else's hands. The city did mow the grass over the summer, and a condemnation notice was served by certified mail and by posting the notice on the property and in the paper. And the staff does recommend demolishing the property.
This is also a public hearing. If there's anyone that wants to address this particular item. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 1214 West Highland, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 1214 West Highland.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
I go that. Okay. Any questions for Zach?
Quick question, Zach. Since the owner is deceased, is there an estate, and maybe you already answered this, is there an estate that we can attach these costs to, or will they just be rolled into the property tax?
They would be rolled into the property tax. And if an estate, I guess, were opened, the estate would still try to claim the property. The assessment would just be attached to it and there wouldn't be a structure on it anymore, I guess would be my understanding of how that would work. We don't typically attach the costs of this to an individual, just to the property, and it'd be more or less the same thing with this one.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
This is a time, place, and date set to consider condemnation of the structures on the property located at 815 Allison in the city of Ottumwa, Wapolo County, Iowa.
Zach, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Mayor. This property was placarded on January 27th of 2020 due to not meeting the standards of the housing code. The owner of the property, in this case also has been identified to be deceased, and no one has stepped forward, and no estate that we know of has been opened on the property. The building has no windows or siding, remains open to the elements and further deterioration. The condemnation notice was served by mail, by posting on the property, and by posting in the Courier, and the staff recommendation is to demolish this property as well.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone who wants to address this item. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Matt and Skip?
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Condemn the structures located at 815 Allison, order prompt demolition, removal, and leveling of the lot, and direct all costs attendant to such actions, including administrative costs, to be assessed against the property and/or collected from the owner or owners thereof. Recommendation: approve the condemnation of the structures located at 815 Allison.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Zach?
I have one quick question, not directly related to this property, but related to the subject. Do you happen to have an idea after these properties are removed from the placarded list, how many we have in the city of Ottumwa that are still placarded?
It would be around 100. Jeff, do you?
There's about 100 placarded properties, and we estimate maybe up to 300 more that could be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
And I would also just note, for, I guess, the benefit of the audience, this is 4 condemnations in one night. It's an unusual number. The reason that we have them kind of stacked up is that when we made the transition with the attorney, it took some time to get our footing, figure out the new process for doing these. Christine and the folks at Allers and Cooney have been really great with putting them together. And this is resolving the backlog that built up during that. And that's the reason we have a bunch all at once.
Good comment. Any other questions for Zach? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Is there any other business for the Board of Health? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to call the regular meeting of the City Council to order, and we'll just do a roll call to Make sure the record is accurate.
Councilmember Dalby,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Councilmember Myers, Councilmember Berg,
Here.
Mayor Lazio.
Here.
Items on the consent agenda. Minutes from regular meeting number 1 on January 5th, 2021 as presented. Acknowledge December financial statement and payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. Approve the appointment of Bruce Hopkins to the position of operator at Water Pollution Control Facility effective February 1st, 2021. Approve the appointment of Shelby Smith to the full-time position of Communications Specialist for the Ottumwa Police Department effective January 20th, 2021. Beer and/or liquor applications for Iowa Liquor and Tobacco at 1021 East Main Street, Fairway Stores Incorporated at 1325 Albia Road, Dollar General Store number 7179 at 721 North Quincy Avenue, Dollar General Store number 2898 at 921 East Main Street, Recovery Room at 1805 West 2nd Street, The Keg with Outdoor Service Area at 622 Church Street, Hy-Vee Wine and Spirits at 2453 North Court, Hy-Vee Gas number 1 at 1027 North Quincy Avenue, Hy-Vee Gas number 2 at 2457 North Court Street. All applications pending final inspections.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. Need approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dalby,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Item D in our agenda is the administrator's report to the council and to the community, and so I'd like to call on Phil Rath to give us an update.
All right, thank you, Honorable Mayor. So the first item on here is the Code of Conduct that was mentioned at the end of the last meeting. And the mayor has subsequently handed me some information that I believe has been discussed at some level previously, but not officially adopted. And so I'm reviewing that information, looking at a way to incorporate that maybe into the documents that we have for elected officials that are currently there. We have some other updates to make with that. The comprehensive plan was recently done. New goals were established. Those are some of the documents that are in there. And then also just looking at general parameters for whether it's the council or other commissions, boards, committees that are established, and kind of understanding that roles and responsibilities of those entities. So we'll be bringing something forward on that for the council to consider, and that's an update on that. Second item on here is regional office. And I probably should have been a little more specific with this, but there's no action on this tonight. This is just looking at the possibility, let's see, would have been probably about 15, 16 years ago or so. Representative Jim Leach had rented some space out of City Hall to have a regional office. And then recently, Representative Loebsack would have, I think it was an hour a week, where he would come to the facility with Representative Miller Meeks being recently elected and Ottumwa being her hometown, looking at the opportunity or possibility of being able to reestablish a regional office for the DC representatives here in Ottumwa. I think it kind of plays into our efforts to maintain Ottumwa as a regional hub for the area. This is one thing where we get people coming to the city and also gives us that connection to what's happening at the federal level there as well. So we're in preliminary discussions with that, looking at the possibility of finding space at City Hall here, establishing any rental agreements, making sure it hits the compliances that the federal government requires for phone, internet, all of those things. And then if all looks good, we'll get an agreement to the council to officially look to rent out that space.
Very good. Any questions for Phil? Okay, let's move to item E. We always give citizens a chance for input on any item on the agenda. Is there anyone that wants to address anything on the agenda tonight? Okay, let's move to item F.
Approve the purchase of a new Flight 3153 pump for Barton's Branch. Recommendation, approve the purchase of a new Flight 3153 pump from Electric Pump in Des Moines, Iowa for the quoted price of $14,069.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Good evening, Larry. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Barton's Branch Pump Station is located at the Water Pollution Control Facility Headworks Building. Barton's Branch, along with the Elm Street Pump Station, supplies nearly all the wastewater coming from the plant. Barton's handles combined sewer overflows from the east end of town up to the neighborhood around Ottumwa Regional Center. This flight model 3152 has been in service for 24 years, and the quoted price to repair is $9,826.60 with a 90-day warranty on the rebuild and a 1 year on parts. A new pump from flight model 3153 is $14,069 with a 5-year warranty. Because of the age of the existing pump, cost of this repair, and anticipated future maintenance of the existing pump, staff recommends the purchase of a new pump. Each year, Water Pollution Control budgets $65,000 for pump replacement. There's $55,115 remaining in this line item, and the funds will come out of the remaining balance.
Any questions for Larry? Okay, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
This is a time, place, and date set for a public hearing approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Johnson Avenue reconstruction project.
Okay, go ahead, Larry.
This project involves full-width, full-depth, 8-inch PCC reconstruction of Johnson Avenue from Albia Road, approximately 206 feet south. Consideration was given to a mill and HMA overlay, but considering the use of this section for semi-turning traffic movements, PCC would be a better structural choice. The project has 25 working days. Bids will be received and opened by the City of Ottumwa on February 10th, 2021 at 2 p.m. The bid report and bid award recommendation will be presented at the City Council meeting on February 16th, 2020. One or later date is determined by staff. This will be funded from the expanded street repair program. And you can see that estimated cost is $109,000. One of the things we are doing, because we've got two adjacent buildings, is working with the owners. It will be a phased project, probably the south end, get all the underground done first, and then split the paving to maintain access to both businesses at either end. The BP station is not as critical because it has frontage and access from Albia, but the side business has the main shop off of Johnson.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience who wants to speak to this issue, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Resolution number 18, 2021, approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Johnson Avenue reconstruction project. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 18, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Holly. Any questions for Larry? Larry, this is a very busy corner, as I recall. Is there going to be a lot of notice in terms of both neighbors and public awareness?
There will be. There'll be a public input meeting or informational meeting. We have reached out to Andrew at the station just to try to coordinate with his plans. When we get closer, then we'll have more contact. He's already in the discussions. He'll use a different type of delivery truck for his fuel. It's one of their short ones instead of a full-length semi.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Resolution number 12, 2021, fixing an amount for abating a nuisance against certain lots in the city of Ottumwa totaling $13,462.97. Recommendation, pass and adopt resolution number 12, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Go ahead, Zach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The city abated nuisances on 13 properties. Those properties are all listed in the resolution. The property owners were billed for the nuisance abatements, but those invoices are still unpaid. So the nuisance abatement costs in this resolution total $13,462.97.
Any questions for Zach? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Resolution number 14, 2021, directing the acceptance of a proposal to purchase 9.10 million general obligation capital loan notes, Series 2021A, and approving the form and authorizing execution of a note purchase agreement. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 14, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we have City Finance Director Kayla Mulder. Go ahead, Kayla.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Resolution 14, 15, and 16 are all going to be included in a presentation given by Tim from Piper Sandler, who's the managing director. And then afterwards, we'll go through each resolution and do the passing of that.
Okay.
So,
Good evening, Tim.
and you guys should have a copy of this in your packet as well as it being on the screen.
So we did sell bonds today. There are two series of bonds being sold. One is to fund your CIP program for the current year and for the coming budget year, and the other was to refinance bonds previously issued. So I'll start with the refinance piece first. The old bonds were issued in 2011 at an interest rate of 4.22% remaining on that bond issue. Reissued at today's interest rates, including transactional costs, so kind of the net effective cost to the city. Those bonds are being reissued at an interest rate of 1.61%. That sounds like a big number, but the question is, what is that number in dollars? And the answer is, after transactional costs, it's a reduction in interest cost of $198,000 to the city. So that is shown under the column number 13, line number 35, if you're looking at that chart. I come from the school of proving your math, by the way. So, on this chart, and then I'll move on to the second one. Under column number 5 are the uses of funds, sources of funds. The bond amount is $1,395,000. Now that's different than the resolution. The resolution foots to the hearing, and when we set the hearing, we always try and make the hearing high enough that we don't have to come back for a second one. We're not always perfect at that, by the way. But, we're going to use $1,371,000 of that to pay off the old bonds, and $24,000 of transactional expenses, legal, my firm's costs, rating fees, etc. So this is purely lowering the payment, locking in savings to the city. Questions on this one?
Great savings.
Yeah. So that's actually the agenda item number 3, by the way. So that would foot to that. So with respect to a resolution number 3, sorry. With respect to resolution number 2, the not to exceed bond amount is $9,010,000. We had included a potential refinancing there as well that we've concluded can't be done at this time for legal reasons. So that may come up at a later date, but for right now, we'll leave that off the table. So this issue is nice and clean. It's all CIP, FY21, FY22 CIP. And the borrowing amount. So this is the second page of that. Thank you. So the borrowing amount in the reso says $9,010,000. The actual final amount is $7,025,000, and that is shown under column number 18 on the screen. And it's being that, along with the bond premium of $359,000, is being used to fund $7,286,000 of CIP, and then cover the just under $100,000 of issuance-related expenses. I would point out the interest rates, which are shown under column 20, 21, and 22. I always like to show numbers where the first rate is a 0. The average interest rate on this issue, including fees, 1.67%. So I would point quickly, and I will leave you to questions if you have any, but the bonds have a 2% interest rate, as you see there under column number 20, but they're actually being sold to investors, shown under column number 22, at a slightly lower rate than that. That's fairly common. It's, if you remember when you bought your first house and they said, do you want to pay a point to buy the rate down? That's a math exercise. If you can pay a point to buy the rate down, you can buy a point to buy the rate up. And that's what investors are doing. And so the reason that you have that premium, $359,000, is the investors are paying you to buy the rate up from where the market is to 2%. I'm agnostic on it. I care about the end result and not the machinations in between. So, but regardless, it's nice to have lock in a long-term financing at well under 2%. The last agenda item there, which is item number 4, is related to item 3. When you refinance an old bond, one of the things you have to do is give notice to the old bondholders that you intend to pay their bond off on what date and at what price. The resolution specifies the details of that. And so it would be illogical to approve 3 and not approve 4, or to approve 4 and not approve 3. They go together. Can I shut up and answer any questions?
Tim, I know you said you would like to estimate over. I'm assuming the drastic difference between 9 million and 7 million has a lot to do with the interest rate then that was captured?
Yeah, great question. So actually, no, it has to do with, there's one bond that is going to become refinanceable in the near term that I was thinking maybe it makes sense now. And at the moment, I don't think it makes sense to include. You've held the hearing, you've got the authority. If we get to that date, we'll bring that one back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I thought that was a big jump between
Yeah,
the
it is
two.
a big number.
Quick question on that as well. Since there is such a large deviation between those two amounts, do we need to amend the wording on this at all, or does that still work with the 9 million and the 7 million?
In the fear of being accused of being a lawyer, which I'm not, no. The way I understand you from your talking to your bond lawyer about this is this resolution they like to foot to the original public hearing. So that's why it's the 9 million. Next council meeting, you will have the resolution where you're going to authorize the tax. That number will foot to these numbers. So that resolution will then draw the line from 9 million down to the 7 million number.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good question.
Very good question. Any other questions? Any other comments? And I want to, for the record, we've been actively involved with Allers and Cooney, their bond attorneys, and they've approved all the transactions that you're proposing.
Yes.
So. Have you had any comments or questions from public? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, well, let's go back and do you want to take them in the order presented then?
Yes.
Do you want me to reread this one or no?
Let's start with number 2 and.
Do you want me to reread it?
Yeah.
Okay. Resolution number 14, 2021, directing the acceptance of a proposal to purchase 9.10 million general obligation capital loan notes, series 2021A, and approving the form and authorizing execution of a note purchase agreement. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 14, 2021.
And that was made by Mark and seconded by Holly.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? Take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Resolution number 15, 2021, directing the acceptance of a proposal to purchase 1.4 million taxable general obligation refunding capital loan notes, Series 2021B, and approving the form and authorizing execution of a note purchase agreement. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 15, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Any questions for Kayla or Tim? Okay. Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Resolution number 16, 2021, authorizing the redemption of outstanding general obligation bonds, taxable series 2011A, dated October 19th, 2011. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 16, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Kayla? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you for all that work. I know it seems like we went through it rather quickly, but you've done a good job of giving us a lot of information in our board packet, and council's had a chance to visit with you personally, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Tim, too.
Yes.
Okay, item 5.
Resolution number 17, 2021, authorizing the planning department to pursue an Iowa's Rural Heritage Revitalization Grant and authorizing the mayor to sign the application for 131 East Main Street. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 17, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Good evening, Zach. You have the floor again.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The city acquired 131 East Main by legal action under Iowa Code Section 657A. The property had been abandoned by a previous owner, and the abandonment and neglect had left the property in a blighted condition. And it's at one of the most visible intersections in downtown Ottumwa. It's a very plays an important part in our downtown district, and remediating this condition is an important part of continuing to drive the economic development downtown. The building is listed on the National Register of Historic Places as the first national bank building, and it would qualify for this grant. The State Historic Preservation Office is offering grants of up to $125,000 for the revitalization of historic resources that belong to local governments or that belong to nonprofits. And that's a pretty small window. They're also looking for economic development to be part of the grant. So we think that something where the city is a temporary custodian of the building, putting in some resources to set it in the right direction and to encourage a full historic rehabilitation by the next owner, it would be exactly what this grant is looking for. It also is only eligible to communities with fewer than 50,000 residents, which again would make this a pretty competitive grant opportunity for the city. As part of the 2016 Community Development Block Grant Downtown Revitalization Program, we had an architect review this building and a number of other buildings, and they created a report that listed stabilization of the terracotta as the highest priority for the restoration and rehabilitation of this historic resource. And so our concept is terracotta restoration and asbestos abatement, as those would be two of the biggest barriers to a private developer when they get into the building. Doing the terracotta will probably be pretty low on their list of priorities because it's just the outside of the building. They'd want to get their commercial space ready, which makes sense. So we do hope that we would take care of some of the biggest obstacles that would make development after that feasible and drive it in the right direction. I guess I'll also just note that the grant does require a 30% match. That'd be a minimum of $37,500 or $37,500 for a $125,000 grant. And we would expect that the building is worth well more than that, so we would be able to recover that match at the time of the sale. We've discussed a couple of possibilities for the funding. Obviously, the resolution accepting the grant would specifically list that out, but where the funding is going to come from is a little bit less important when we know that selling the property, it's going to be worth well more than what we would put into it. It's probably worth at least that much now, I would say. It's still a beautiful property. So the staff's recommendation is, again, to authorize us to pursue the grant and to authorize the mayor to sign the letter, or I'm sorry, the application. And then Brad Grief from Area 15 Regional Planning and Fred Zeziger from Main Street Ottumwa have worked on this application, and they would be here to answer questions as well.
Any questions for Zach?
Just one quick one.
Go ahead.
I know that there was several items that were left inside the building that were of concern. Have those been removed at this point?
Thank you. That's a great question. We have looked at those items. A lot of them actually have some value to them. There's lots of tools. There's lots of equipment. There's a player piano. There's some stuff in there with value. And we're working on an agreement with Main Street Ottumwa to move those items out of the building. And then this spring or this summer, host an auction to divest of all of those. The idea being to split the proceeds between the Historic Preservation Commission and Main Street Ottumwa. The agreement for that auction is going to be coming before the council soon. Allers and Cooney, again, has been helping us with drafting that agreement. We think that'll be a good way to get the value out of those items and to also get the building cleaned up with no cost or low cost.
Just for public interest, can you speak to the ownership of the items that are in that building?
Yes, the city does own those items. When we acquired the property and all its contents. We also did give the owner several opportunities to remove any items they wanted. The former owner. And the former owner did remove some personal effects, but did leave a lot of those items. Also, for a period of time, the building was being broken into, and they still left all of these items after breaking into the building. So I would say that at this point, any opportunity to claim these items by anybody but the city has been pretty well forfeited.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good comments? Okay, hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Just a comment, that's a fairly extensive grant, and I assume that you and the regional planning will work on that together?
Yeah, Brad Grief is doing the bulk of the writing on the grant. Obviously, he's very good at that, wrote the build grant application for us, and this is well within their ability.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Resolution number 19, 2021, approving the amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement for engineering services between JEO Consulting Group and the City of Ottumwa for the Green Street Storm Sewer Improvements Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 19, 2021.
Is there a motion?
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Honor.
Second.
Larry, you have the floor.
The City of Ottumwa entered into an agreement for professional services with JEO Consulting Group November 17th, 2020 for the design of a separate storm system on Green Street. Ottumwa Water evaluated their existing water main age and condition, have decided to replace it. And when we were installing the storm system, amendment number 1 will provide additional design services as follows. It'll include the design of a 20-inch water main along Green Street corridor, design and connection of the new main, of course, at each end, and design the water main under Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, permitting of the water main with Burlington Northern and IDNR. The amendment is for $12,000 and will bring the new design contract amount to $149,120. That will be reimbursed by Ottumwa Water Works.
Any questions for Larry? Hearing none, take the roll.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Resolution number 20, 2021, setting the time and days for regular and special council meetings. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 20, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions for staff? This is really just a updating of our past resolutions. I think, Council, you've seen this before, but thought that it's been several years since it's been updated, so it was in your packet. Any questions? If not, take a vote.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to petitions and communications. I would mention two things. Thursday night, we are hosting a investors meeting at Bridgeview Center. The social will start at 5 o'clock, and then at 5:30, we'll have a formal presentation for anybody who's interested in investing in the proposed hotel alongside of Bridgeview. So if you have somebody that you think should be invited, please extend the invitation to them, and we'd like to have them hear the presentation from the people who know the most about the hotel and the financing of that. Secondly, there will be a special election on Tuesday, the 26th of January, to replace our state senator. And there are going to be voting centers. There won't be the usual precincts that we normally go to. So pay attention to the paper and media for locations. I think there are 7 or 8 here in Wapolo County for that election. That's all I have for the council. Is there any business from the council that we need to? Phil, anything from you?
Nothing else.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dalby?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Councilmember Berg?
Yes.
Thank you very much and good evening. 6:22.